Good evening. It is 6 p.m. and on behalf of Virginia Board for People with Disabilities, we would like to welcome all of you to another exciting, informative, educational, and important continuing education statewide topic on transition options, deaf community services, accommodations for college students, and alternative hiring practices. On behalf of the training alumni, and the training alumni consist of graduates of one of our two flagship training programs at Virginia Board for People with Disabilities. They are either graduates of our Partners in Policymaking training program, affectionately called PIP, or our Youth Leadership Academy, formerly known as the Youth Leadership Forum. The mission of the graduates, the training alumni, is to provide advocacy trainings and continuing education workshops focused on the broader disability community throughout the Commonwealth of Virginia. In order for us to bring these continuing education workshop topics and sessions to you, it requires a team effort. And so we want to acknowledge, of course, our executive director always, Terry Morgan, our administration team members, Henry Street and Tara Bethea, our communications team, Miss Anita Ayers and Miss Brittany Hughes. And joining us tonight is Miss Brenda Perrin, who serves as our closed captioner from Virginia Relay. We also are in partnership with Boitnott Visual Communications, BVC, and we have as our guru technician tonight, Mr. Eli Red. We also work very closely with DARS Procurement, as well as all of the various agencies that make up DARS, two of which you will meet tonight and learn from. We thank our relationship with Mosaic Interpreting Team, and the members tonight are Mr. Tristan Brown, who is our ASL interpreter tonight, along with his colleague and our dear friend, Miss Felicia Smith, who serves also as an interpreter. We are also acknowledging as a part of our team, the director of our Planning, Research, and Evaluation Unit, Miss Nia Harrison, who handles all of our evaluations. And of course, our unit, I am Penny Sweetenberg Lee. I serve as the Director of Training and Alumni Development Programs. And my right and left hand is our coordinator, Ms. Christine Jeremiah. And so we want to thank all of our team members who helped to make these sessions successful. We have already put our opening poll up, and many of you have been responding. We evaluate all of our events because we want to make sure that we identify the impact of these sessions and to improve any future events that we are delivering. Feedback, you need to know, is anonymous, and there are two polls to each of our sessions. The About You poll is the one that is available now, and it is simply given so that we might understand who is here, who is in the room. And then the session feedback poll will come at the end of the session. We hope that you will hang in here with us so that you can complete that session feedback. That poll will come up during the latter part of the question and answer session during this particular workshop session. If there is a request for alternative format, all you need to do is drop it in the chat box and we will get it to you. And we will also inform our Director of Evaluations, Ms. Nia Harrison, whose email is listed on my screen after the event. Tonight, we are going to cover this topic: transition options, deaf community services, and alternative hiring processes. Notice that I omitted accommodations for college students. That is simply because our presenter tonight, Ms. Megan Ashburn, gave me permission to share with you that she is unable to join us tonight because she lost her brother David this morning. He died. He had been sick for only a few days in ICU, and she wanted me to share with all of you that she hopes to return to give this presentation at a later date. But we encourage you to please send warm thoughts to she and her family as they deal with the loss of her brother. And so we are going to begin tonight with Miss Tracy Branch, and then following that will be Miss Sandra Phipps. Then the question and answer segment will take place. If our two presenters, Miss Branch and Miss Phipps, wants to take questions as they are proceeding and presenting, that is their choice. But we will also have Christine Jeremiah monitoring the chat. So any questions that you may have, we encourage you to please drop them in the chat. And during the Q&A session, we will certainly make sure that your questions are heard. Depending on the time allotment tonight, there may be some of you who may have an opportunity to ask your questions directly, and we will certainly be monitoring that as we go along. It is now my honor to turn this session over to Ms. Tracy Branch, who serves as the statewide transition specialist for the Department for Aging and Rehabilitative Services. And following Ms. Branch will be Ms. Sandra Phipps, who is also from the Department of Aging and Rehabilitative Services, DARS, as we know so affectionately, and she serves as the liaison for the Department of Human Resource Management. Ms. Tracy Branch, take it away.
You're on mute, Tracy.
All right, how about that? Can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
So what I'm gonna do, ready for me? Ready? Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I will will interpret for the audience, for you to know who your presenter is. Tracy Branch, obviously with DAR, Department for Aging and Rehabilitative Services. So I'm not going to sign, so the interpreter can. I tend to speak, sign, same time, not good. So we'll have interpreter. Okay. So I will.
Tracy, you want to start your PowerPoint from the beginning? Also.
And we'll jump, but we'll slow. So if miss or it's not making any sense, please stop, because purpose of this evening is for you. Okay. So again, I'll begin by saying I'm sorry that Megan is not with us this evening, thinking about her and her family. She had an amazing presentation that she was going to share, and then I was going to kind of jump in on that to kind of really underscore why what we do at DARS is significant. But we'll wait for next time to hear her story. So I'll go ahead and start with, as you can see on the screen, pre-employment and transition services. So for the interpreters, we also say pre-S, which is pre-ETS in the sign. So we say pre-S, pre-work. Okay, so first, let's start with our agency, give you a little bit of an idea of what is DARS. For those of you that are not familiar with DARS, if you've never heard of DARS, we have an array of services. So if you go to our website, if you see here, I want to make sure first, before I proceed, that you can see the same page that I'm looking at. So you see something that says, what is DARS? Okay, perfect. And then if you look in the top right-hand corner, you see Virginia, DARS.org in yellow. Okay, so we're going to go on to that website. This is our website, our agency website. If you go down a little bit, midway, you're going to see 3 yellow boxes. And in those yellow boxes, of course, when you click on the boxes, they'll tell you a little bit more about all of our services. So for example, older adult focuses on things like dementia services, adult protective services, and then skipping over to the 3rd box, it says disability services. That's where we focus on brain injury, assistive technology, personal assistant services, and those kinds of things. Tonight, I'm going to be focused on employment help, which is the tab here that you see. And if you go down to youth in transition, we're going to click on that. And this is going to be what I talk about tonight, pre-S and VR services. Transition services. So pre-S is the start of transition services along that whole continuum of transition services. So transition is a process. It is a progress. Okay. So again, if you go down here, so tonight we only have a very limited amount of time. So I don't, think it's possible, of course, that we can get to all of the services that we have to offer, but they're all so important. So I want to share these resources with you so that at a later time, you and your team can look at them and then call us with questions. So again, if you are a student tonight interested in what is transition services, how can this agency help me prepare for my life after high school? Or if you are a teacher that works with deaf and hard of hearing, or a counselor that works with deaf and hard of hearing, or another community provider that works with deaf and hard of hearing, and you're looking to see what can the agency do, our middle name is Collaboration, and we're interested in partnering with you and your agency to kind of help figure out what it is that would help you be successful. So if you go here, this particular page talks about pre-employment transition services, pre-S. And pre-S begins at the age of 14, okay? And all you have to do is simply tell us that you're interested in services. There is no eligibility and there is no financial eligibility. You basically have to be in school or in an educational program and have a disability, and we can work with you. So again, we have flyers, tabs on the right-hand side, links on the right-hand side. Our program flyer is both in English and in Spanish. And then of course, if you have a situation where somebody's first language is ASL, sadly, we don't have an ASL video on our website just yet. But that is always a good opportunity to give me a call or shoot me an email, and I can explain in ASL to your class or to your student, your daughter, son, whoever. And then simply, if you go down a little bit further where it says consent form, this is the only thing that we need for you to sign up for services. You click on that and fill it out and send it to me, and we'll get you connected to the counselor that'll work with you. Before I leave and go back to the PowerPoint, I wanted to show you this here so that when you look later on, this is a very good resource for you. It's called our Transition Resource Hub. And in partnership with VCU, they have helped us, put some resources on here. And so this is what that looks like. If you go down, if you click on each of those, okay, and I'll dance back and forth, but let me go back to the PowerPoint. All right, so I already explained about that. Let me go down a little bit. Okay, so here are the 5 activities that we tend to focus on with pre-employment and transition services. And I'm going to give you some examples because I do better by applying examples for you rather than just talking about topics. But one of the biggest things that we do is career exploration. Now, For the purpose of tonight, and again, I want you to ask questions because this is for you guys, but for the purpose of tonight, pre-employment transition services is more broad in nature. And so what I mean by that is that our goal is to expose students to lots of different resources, and it's more of a way to gain understanding. It's more of a way to learn what's out there, what might be available to them, and it helps students learn what they like and what they don't like. Now, on the VR side of things, the vocational rehabilitation side of things are a lot more individualized. And that's where you and your counselor will talk specifically about your employment goal and exact steps you and your counselor will discuss that will help you master that goal. Whereas pre-EST is more just introducing you to things. And I'm going to show you some of what I mean by that. Okay. All right. So going to our examples, map your future. All right, let me do a technical check real quick to make sure I'm not losing anyone. So we're okay? Okay, because I cannot see the chat. So if there is a chat
We have a
question or
question.
whatever, the interpreter can just let me know, or a facilitator, Dr. Penny can let me know. Okay, so I'm going to move on to, yes, ma'am. Yes.
We do have a question. Can someone be a VR client and participate in pre-ETS?
Absolutely. I'm glad you asked that question. Absolutely. Yes, happens all the time. Mhm. Yep, it's actually what we want. Perfect. And I'll give you an example. All right, so Map Your Future. For the last several years, we have had what we call Map Your Future, which is a summer program. It's about 3 days, and we pack it full with activities to help student fun activities that help students with career exploration. And like, for example, I'll talk a little bit about what we've had in the years past. We've had a panel, and this 3-day program is for students that are enrolled in either high school or college or in an educational program. And they come and they stay overnight. And all the staff use sign language, all the staff have a hearing loss, or work in the area of deafness. So back to the panel, I jumped around a little bit. There's always so much to try to explain about Map Your Future. I don't know which one is most important, but the entire program is a wonderful program and has evolved over the years based on student feedback. So that's why it's very important. What Dr. Penny said earlier, your feedback regarding tonight is critical in shaping the next opportunity for you guys. So again, we've taken that feedback that the students have given us, and we've changed our program to meet their needs, and it's become a great program. It was the first day, but we've just gotten better and better. So for example, we have give you an idea of what we do is we have a panel of deaf professionals who are now working out in the workforce. Maybe at one time they were DARS clients, and maybe in high school, maybe not. Maybe their experience was a good experience, maybe it wasn't. Some are deaf, some are hard of hearing, some are deaf blind, some use sign language, some do not. Some have cochlear implant, some have hearing aids. So as you can see, we have a diverse panel. And what that brings to our students is our students take control and are able to not only hear these stories, but they're able to ask questions. And so if you are anything like me, when I was in high school, I was the only person with a hearing loss pretty much in my small town high school. And so I did not have a mentor. I did not have anybody I could relate to in terms of understanding my hearing loss and navigating the unknown, if you will. And so for these students, they can take that away. And sometimes it's really nice for them as they are trying to navigate getting prepared for graduation and what am I going to do next. And that brings us to where Megan will help us learn more about how we can become better prepared when it comes to post-secondary education. Like in the college system, things are very different from high school to college. So during our Map Your Future, our summer program, we do talk a lot about self-advocacy, knowing a lot about our own hearing loss so that we can tell other people about what our needs are. Understanding the difference between high school and college, and those kinds of things. We've also done art activities where we bring in a person who is a deaf artist and they show us their skill. We've had cooking where we learned just basic cooking. Some of us were fortunate enough to have different classes in a high school where we learn basic life skills. And some of us have that opportunity from our family and some of us have not. At the same time, we also know that many of us who are deaf or hard of hearing, most of our family is hearing. And most of our family probably doesn't communicate the same way that we do. I mean, statistics, I don't have those statistics, but we know that statistics is pretty high for family members that have a different communication modality as, their child, and it's not uncommon. And so that incidental learning, that listening to our parents, different life skills, we miss that. Not purposefully, nobody did it on purpose, but it's just a very natural occurrence. So during our Map Your Future program, they get to take advantage of that. So I keep talking and not showing you the flyer. So hopefully you guys, this will be shared on a lot of different networks. And so if you know of anybody who's age 14 to 22 that is enrolled in a educational program, whether it be high school or college or whatnot, please have them look into this. I think you would really enjoy it. And of course, you can call me with any specific questions. If you want me to talk to your classroom or talk to your child and give you an idea about it, I can do that. We can also team up any of our previous students with the newer students to give them an idea of what it looks like. We often have our previous students come back as ambassadors to kind of help out with that. Sometimes this Map Your Future program is the first time a student has been away. So we usually have it at Wilson Workforce and Rehabilitation Center. That's also called WWRC for some of you that may be familiar with that acronym. And that is a campus-like setting. So it's a very secure opportunity for students. And again, our staff, deaf, hard of hearing, we stay there as well and do lots of activities. So it's a lot of fun. That is one thing. The next thing I'm going to talk about are our virtual classes. Let me pull up the...
Tracy, this is Christine. Can I ask?
Here we go. Okay, so this is something that is also shared on different social networks. So if you don't have this and you would like to share this with your classroom or, want to get your hands on it, just shoot me an email and I can share it with you. But what we do is we follow the school calendar. So our classes start in September and they go until May. And we have a hearing session. I say hearing session, but what I mean is just people with other disabilities, not hearing losses. And that session is from 6:30 to 7. It's just a short 30-minute session. And then I have a session that is from 7:30 to 8. And what we generally do is we follow a topic. So if you notice on there, we have financial literacy, meaning understanding budgeting, understanding, okay, so I want this kind of apartment, I want this kind of car, I want cable, I want Netflix, I want all these different things. And this is how much money I plan to earn with this career. How do they match up? And then there's other things such as mental health and self-care, job shadowing. What does that even mean? So we talk about those things. The beauty of my group, obviously, is just individuals with hearing loss. Like I said, some sign, some don't sign. And so we always have interpreters and captioning so that everybody has access. So that is something that we do once a month. So please come. All right. And then the last thing I'm going to share, and then I see that I'm coming up on my 30 minutes. All right, so the next thing is National Job Shadow. Just wanted to give you a general idea of what is Job Shadow and what is she talking about, that she partners with schools, and what does that mean? What does it look like? Okay, so this example here, this is a picture of the back of some of our students from the Northern Virginia area, specifically Colgan High School in Manassas. So we partnered with the teacher of the deaf there at Colgan High School, and we partnered with the rehabilitation counselor for the deaf, Teresa Light, that works out of Manassas area. And we all got together, we put our heads together with the students and said, what is it that you want to learn? And what kind of job do you want to learn about? And so those students talked about the careers that they were looking to pursue once they got out of high school. So what I did was I hit the pavement, pounded the pavement, if you will, and we found some employers that would be willing to let us come in and shadow, meaning kind of look at the job at hand. So this particular picture here is a picture of sports clips, the hair cuttery place. So some of these students were interested in becoming a barber, and in that customer service was one. And so what we did is we met with the staff there, led by the manager, of course, but we met with all the different staff and we learned a little bit about what it entailed to be a hairdresser. We also got to hear her story about how she became the manager. She did not apply for the job and become a manager. She started as like a shampoo girl and was taking her classes and those kinds of things. We also learned a little bit about this particular sports clips. They don't just come in and she only does hair. They actually schedule their own appointment. They're like an independent contractor, if you will. So having good customer service skills and being able to network and build your own client base was important to make or break your career. So students were like, wow, some knew that and some did not. And some students learned the difference between barbering and cosmetology. So it's a nice exposure to all the students. All right, and so the next couple of slides, which I'm going to just quickly go through, actually give you a little bit more of a definition. So this PowerPoint is available to y'all to look at later or share with your class or share with your family or your team. But it gives you an idea of exactly what are the 5 core services that we do at DARS, such as work readiness there, as you can see. One of the things I can touch on that some of you might be interested in, most all teenagers are interested in it, but in work readiness, we currently have an opportunity where you can you can participate in our learner's permit class. It's a virtual class. So, and what that means is that, most high schools have learner's permit opportunities and stuff for individuals with hearing loss. Sometimes just navigating some of the barriers of access are something that we experience. Sometimes because we have missed out on these opportunities in, 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, just the kind of building block to get us up to learner's permit timeframe. So sometimes now we're sitting to take the test and we don't really understand all of it. It's not because we're incompetent. It's because we did not have that training or that information or that preparation like other students. So these classes that we offer actually lay that out and really help you sometimes, have a better grasp on the material so that when you go into DMV, you're ready. But at the same time, we all know that sometimes DMV is not readily accessible to individuals with hearing loss. Some DMVs, they get it, and other DMVs do not. They're all under the same state program, but unfortunately, we see that differentiation happening. So DARS can help students self-advocate and know who to talk to and what to say. So those are some of the things that we learn, of course, with self-advocacy as well. All right, let me see here. All right, so I touched a little bit about vocational rehabilitation being more individualized. So again, if you have any more specific questions on that, you can let me know. I wanted to jump to here. On slide 25, these are some of the links that I was looking at just a bit ago. So you have those. So if you can get your hands on this PowerPoint, you can click those and search more. You can even search for a local DARS office, but I'm going to give you something even better than that. And this here on 26 are some transition resources that I think you guys would be interested in, especially if you're a teacher looking for some activities to do in your classroom. All right, so the gold mine is on slide 27 here. This is, it's a colored, different colors of areas, districts on a map. And you'll see names of people and the areas that they cover. So on the next page, which is very small, so I don't expect you to see that, but you can blow it up when you actually get possession of it. But that is our counselor. Those are the names and the phone numbers and email addresses of the counselors that work here at DARS, the counselors that work with our deaf and hard of hearing consumers. And so all of these individuals sign and have experience in working with individuals who are deaf, hard of hearing, late deaf, and deafblind, and so forth. Okay. And so you can contact me if you have questions about that, but that's their contact information and which office they're located out of. All right, and so I will stop sharing my screen. Okay, so that is a really quick explanation of PREAS. So any questions, or we'll put it off to Sandy?
Tracy, we do have a question in the chat box. Is there a minimum % of disability that one must have to participate?
No, I think what you're asking is, do you have to have a disability that's pretty significant to work with DARS?
I believe that's the question. I'm uncertain of the question, and I don't know if we can open it up to the individual that posed.
Okay, let me see if I can do that.
Do we know who asked the question, Christine?
I'm not sure I can.
T. Billups.
So T. Billups, you're welcome if you'd like to just unmute yourself and perhaps further explain your question.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so my question is, some people are have a certain percentage, like they might only be 50% disabled or 100% disabled. So is it open for anyone that has a disability regardless of that percentage, or do they have to be 100% deemed 100% disabled?
That's a good question. What we at DARS, if your disability is a barrier for you, then we can assist you. You may be, now there is an eligibility now. So for pre-employment transition services, all you have to have is a disability documentation through IEP 504 or a doctor that says you have a disability. That's it. No financial criteria, no eligibility criteria, nothing, just that. Now, for vocational rehab, there is a eligibility criteria, meaning that your disability is substantial enough that it creates a barrier for you to reach your employment goal, and that you need services for at least 6 months or more. So no percentage there. We don't look at, well, you only have one disability, or, oh my goodness, you have 5. And how that impacts employment, and whether or not you need our services for a length of time, 6 months or more.
Hey Tracy, this is Sandy.
It's
Um,
individual based, as you can see.
This is Sandy. I was wondering if she was referring to if you're a veteran based on percentages, is that right?
Oh,
No, I wasn't referring to just veterans.
Oh, okay.
They are just like, I guess when Social Security deem a disability, a particular percentage for disability, sometimes it's at 50 or sometimes it's at 100.
okay, that's a good point that you just said when you said the word Social Security. So individuals who are receiving Social Security are presumed eligible. You obviously are receiving Social Security and you've gone through that vetting process. So you are presumed eligible for our services.
Tracy, this is Dr. Penny. I have a question. I am intrigued by your future program. And I am wondering how many clients do you host? And is this done every July? I noticed the dates are July 16th, 17th, and 18th at the Wilson Rehab Center. How many and how often do you offer this program?
We have it yearly, but the numbers are usually less than 10. And we usually have it every July. And we do have to kind of strategize when to have it because there are so many different summer programs out there, such as with Gallaudet, NTIT, and locally. Camp Loud and Clear. There's a ton. So we have to kind of, because we do have interpreters there as well, because not everybody's signed. But we usually have less than 10. I wish we could have a lot. Well, we think we wish we would have a lot because every year, even though we have less than 10, it's very intense with planning and all the accommodations. Everybody's needs are very different. So I can't even imagine if we had more than 10, but if we did, hey, we take them. Wilson would, WWRT would take, they can take up to 15, that's how much they can accommodate for the summer. But yeah.
Okay, thank you. Other questions?
Hey, thank you guys.
All right, then we will turn this over to Sandra Phipps.
Hey, everybody. Let me see if I can share my screen. Can you all see? Oops. Can you all see my PowerPoint?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, because I can't see you now, so I just need to know. So good evening, everyone. My name is Sandy Phipps. I am with DARS with the Pathways to Careers grant. And through this grant, it's a 5-year grant. Part of this grant is to encourage people with disabilities to get hired into state government. So my role is the liaison with DARS, Department for Aging and Rehab Services, and DHRM, Department of Human Resource Management. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share this PowerPoint. I do go over a lot of information because the audience here, I'm not sure the ages or where you are in your job seeking strategies, but this will be useful whether you are job seeking now, whether you know someone that is job seeking, or if you're in high school or in college and you plan on job seeking. And the reason I'm using the word job seeking instead of just working in state government, because there's a lot of different jobs within state government. And oftentimes people will think, I just need to work in an office. But there's a plethora of jobs within the government. And so the government in Virginia just might be where you land your job. I will be sharing this PowerPoint. If you have questions, throw them in the chat and hopefully I can help you out. So to give you a little bit of a background about the alternative hiring process, it was legislated back in 2021 to create a process to hire individuals with disabilities into Virginia state government. It was intended to be a part of the state's initiative as a model employer for inclusion, increased employment, and accommodation of individuals with disabilities in the state workforce. There is a movement within the country, within many states, to create a process to hire people with disabilities. The alternative hiring process just happens to be our way in Virginia. And as I mentioned, this was a collaborative effort between the grant I am on, the DARS Pathways to a Career Grant, and Department of Human Resource Management, and it was implemented in April of 2022. So we are now 2.5 years in. What is different about the AHP, to keep it short? There are 4 components. Applicants must provide an AHP letter. It used to be called Certificate of Disability. Priority consideration in the screening process. Agencies provide a provisional period after hire. And AHP employees can transition from non-competitive to competitive. And I'm going to go over each of these. So the letter, again, it used to be called Certificate of Disability. Applicants must be certified as an individual with a documented disability as outlined in the Code of Virginia 51, blah, blah, blah. These are all links. So when you get these PowerPoints, you can open up these links because this is, just legislative policy talk. What I do want to stress, however, if you heard Tracy mention to be eligible for DAR services, you have to have a disability that could be a barrier to your employment. The eligibility for a letter is just based on, is your disability impacting your daily lifestyle? Applicants, okay, so such as you would need to request a letter through this portal, which is again a link, okay? And you would request your AHP letter through this link, and all those requests come to me at this point and my colleagues on the grant. And this link is also on the Virginia Jobs website, which I'll show you in a minute, okay? You do not need to be a DARS or Department for the Blind or Vision Impaired client. If you know someone that has a disability, if you have a disability, you don't need to be receiving services from DARS to get this letter. The letter will not disclose your disability, okay? I do want to stress that the letter is only for jobs listed with state agencies on the Virginia government website and who use the alternative hiring process. So it's not a perfect process. Not all state agencies are currently using it. The executive branch agencies are supposed to use it. This is the body of the letter. It's very simple. It just says, this letter serves as authorization that Sandy Phipps meets the criteria for participation in the alternative hiring process in accordance with the Department of Human Resource Management guidelines. Again, policy words, but you'll see it does not disclose your disability at all, okay? And this will be on DARS or DBVI letterhead. So you need to get this letter from us at this point. You should not upload your Social Security disability benefits letter. You should not upload your, if you're a veteran, a service-connected veteran, you don't upload your ratings letter. All right, you only have, you need to upload the AHP letter that you will get from us. So the second part of this process is priority consideration. Agency HR and hiring managers may provide priority consideration in the screening, interview, and hire process for AHP certified applicants that meet minimum qualifications. Candidates lacking the preferred qualifications, usually see those on a job announcement, right? We prefer or additional considerations. So candidates lacking those qualifications will not be excluded during the screening process. There's two howevers, however. The first, however, is this process does not supersede the placement rights of employees in layoff status or veterans. That basically means that veterans and individuals that are in layoff status will get bumped up, okay, to be interviewed. The alternative hiring process is below that. Now, I want to stress the word may, okay? If an AHP applicant is competing with a large pool of applicants for the same position, the recruiters may screen in to interview those higher qualified individuals. So that's why I do say this is not a perfect process yet. But the more we educate recruiters and hiring managers about this process, the more apt they are to screen these individuals in. Applicants still have to be qualified for the job, right? Whether you have a disability or not. But it's just supposed to help to leverage these individuals up to be interviewed. The third part is the provisional period. This is where I stress to applicants, once you get hired, you need to remember this because this is a period of time to determine if you, the applicant, can perform the essential duties of the job with or without reasonable accommodations, and to ensure the appropriate accommodations are in place. So what that basically means is it's giving you time and your employer time, right, to figure out if you need accommodations to help you do your job. Having said that, they shouldn't terminate you based on your job performance because of your disability, okay? So if you were hired in a wage position, those are the part-time, right? The part-time hourly, it's about a 6-month period. If it's a classified full-time salary, it's going to be a part of your 12-month probationary period. So when I tell you that I want you to remember this, the recruiters might know this policy, right? But your immediate supervisors may not remember this period once you get hired. So you will need to be your own advocate to make sure that if you're having difficulty doing your job during this provisional period, and you were hired through the alternative hiring process, this is giving you time to make sure that you get your accommodations in place. Having said that, just so you know, you can request reasonable accommodations at any time during employment. You don't need to be hired as a person with a disability to request reasonable accommodations. Okay, but this was just built in just to give these individuals time. Now, having said that, standards of conduct, right, and non-performance measures are still applicable, right? So if you're not showing up for work, if you're insubordinate, right, you're on your phone all day, yes, those could be reasons to terminate you. And the fourth component is transitioning from non-competitive to competitive. The initial legislation mentions something about being non-competitive in nature. DHRM policy couldn't create a whole non-competitive process. Per policy, most agency job announcements are listed competitively on their website, right? So they're open to the public. They are advertising those jobs. However, some wage positions may be recruited non-competitively, and they aren't necessarily posted on the recruitment management system. Agencies may staff these roles by networking to identify qualified individuals. For example, if you are getting services from DARS, right, vocational rehab services, you will be working with the placement team, a job placement counselor, a business development manager, employment services specialist. They can network with employers, okay, not just state agencies, employers. And if they develop relationships with those agencies or employers, and they educate these employers about DARS, how we will help provide qualified candidates, then they might say to our placement counselor, hey, placement counselor, we're hiring part-time accountants. Do you have any qualified candidates? And then the placement counselor might go back to their office, let's say it's in Harrisonburg, and say, hey, Harrisonburg DARS office, do you have any qualified accountants that want to work for this agency? So that's how the non-competitive process works. However, if it's a full-time classified position for the state, they do have to be advertised competitively. So our workaround was, let's say that you are working part-time at Department of Motor Vehicles. Okay, it's a customer service part-time position. But now a full-time position opens up and you do a great job and you want to work full-time, and you tell your hiring manager, hey, hiring manager, I hear this full-time position can open up. The hiring manager can then advertise that position internal to the agency only. And then what that does, that eliminates the general public from competing for that same position. So this way, that should hopefully help that AHP employee to transition to a competitive full-time job. Lots of words, I'm sorry. So the application process. So let's say that you are applying for a state job. Okay. On your application, you're going to see this question. Are you requesting consideration through the alternative hiring process? And have you received an approved letter from DARS or DBVI? And if you check yes, then you're going to be prompted to upload your letter. Okay. If you don't see this question on the application, it means that agency is not using the alternative hiring process. Therefore, don't upload your letter. They won't know what that is. Okay. Some really quick FAQs. AHP applicants are not guaranteed interviews, right? They still have to have the minimum qualifications for the job. And hopefully they're not competing with a larger pool of super qualified candidates. Certain positions are not designated just for the alternative hiring process. When you do your job search, you're just going to do a regular job search using your search filter words, okay? So for example, like for the federal government, they have the Schedule A hiring authority. They might have designated jobs, or they might just be hiring through that authority. With the state government, we wanted to keep it simple. So you just do a regular job search. And as I mentioned before, not all state agencies are using it. The executive branch is supposed to, but for example, higher education, some universities are not using it. for example, VCU, Virginia Tech, but I believe James Madison University and George Mason are using it. Many of the community colleges are also using it. And you can use your letter every time that you apply for a job, through the alternative hiring process, all right? So it's not just a one and done. You can use it as many times as you apply. So I know that Tracy, let me go back for a second. Oh, okay, let me go through this first. So I know that Tracy briefly mentioned about VR services. So if any of you here are not currently connected to DARS, right? So Voc Rehab is basically a process that assists individuals with disabilities in overcoming your barriers to prepare for, secure, and maintain employment. Okay, so the goal of VR is to help people become more independent and achieve your career goals. And some of our services are vocational counseling, vocational evaluation, career exploration, job training, job development, job coaching. Maybe you need additional support at the job site. Assistive technology devices, right? Maybe we can help our individuals if you need hearing aids or apps to use while you work. And then especially the job placement and retainment assistance. So once you do find a job when you're with DARS, your case doesn't automatically close. Your case will still be open for at least 90 days. Again, to see if you need additional support once you get hired. Sometimes you don't know what support you might need until you start working, okay? Again, you're going to be getting these PowerPoints, but if you have any questions about the policy itself, Sapanet Smith is with DHRM. You can email her. If you have any questions about your letter, I am the point of contact for any applicant education. So for example, if you are with DARS and you get a letter, I provide overviews for you to help you successfully apply for state government jobs. These are links for the guidelines, the FAQs, requesting a letter. So again, if you know someone that has a disability, they don't need to be with DARS, and they want to get a letter, this is the link to do that. And then we have the Virginia government website. These are additional resources for you. One is DARS, okay? So this is the link that Tracy previously showed you. And the difference between pre-ETS and VR is if you're an adult over the age of 18 or 22, so not a super senior, you would go right into Voc Rehab. Okay. Department for the Blind and Vision Impaired, they're our sister agency. And then anything reasonable accommodations. So even if you're not working with DARS and you have questions about how to ask for a reasonable accommodation, who to ask, when to ask, the Job Accommodation Network is a fantastic website, all things reasonable accommodations for both employers and employees. You can even chat with them. You can look up your disability and you'll get a list of accommodations that might help you, okay? It is a wealth of information. And this is a big topic for people because sometimes you're uncomfortable disclosing that you have a disability, right? So this is a great website to help you through that process. And then the Virginia Assistive Technology System, VATS. Okay, so this agency helps Virginians of all ages and abilities acquire appropriate assistive and information technology. So these are all links that you will get. And if anybody just wants to read about the legislation, it's on the last page of the of my slide deck. Again, it's all policy, but again, these are links that you can open up to read about it for yourself. I do want to share with you, and I don't know if I can do a new share. I'm going to stop share and quickly do a new share. Okay. Is there an Excel spreadsheet in front of you now?
Yes.
Okay, so for those of you that love data, just so that you know, since, and in blue here, although the alternative hiring process was implemented in April of 2022, the previous job government website couldn't gather the data of how many people were hired through the alternative hiring process. They weren't prepared for that. But so since, and so the website changed in January 2023. So we started keeping data like in March of 2023. Since March of 2023, there have been 121 people hired through the alternative hiring process. 89 of those individuals are full-time. 26 are wage, okay, you're hourly. 3 in restricted, that means a grant position. I'm on a grant, so I'm on a restricted position. Temporary, I don't know what the unknown is. 35 of those people are veterans. 63 females, 53 males, and 5 other gender specified. So there are more than 121 that have been hired because, again, we don't have that data from April 2022 through January of 2023. And if you are interested in any of the agencies and the types of jobs, on your left, in purplish, are some of the agencies that have hired. Okay, so we have Department of Accounts, Department of Fire Programs, General Services, Juvenile Justice. DMV hires a lot. There's a lot of DMV on here. Department of Social Services, the State Police, DARS, DBVI, Emergency Management, Department of Ed, the Veteran Services, Wildlife Resources, state hospitals, correctional centers, the magistrate system, the Jamestown Yorktown Foundation. So there's museums in here, the Supreme Court. We even have a Virginia Cannabis Control Authority. Who knew? Okay. So that salary is not specified. So we don't know what their job is. Maybe they're a tester. I don't know. VDOT, Department of Agriculture. Okay. And then in green are the types of jobs. The Racing Commission, Museum of Fine Arts. So the types of jobs, you have trades, housekeeping, a printing technician, agricultural specialist, environmental specialist, a watercraft operator for the Department of Transportation. Who knew that job even existed, right? You're driving a boat, I guess, right? An architect, nurses. And I'm showing you this because oftentimes people think of office jobs, okay? And it's not just office jobs. So that's what I want you to think about to expand your horizons. And when Tracy mentioned the career exploration, I don't know if she shared the ONET site, but that's a fantastic website, library specialist, that you can research the type of careers that you want to do, because there are so many jobs out there that you might love to do that you didn't know existed. Okay, so, and with this state, again, there's landscapers, so there's your trades, right? Your electricians, your plumbers, your HVAC. So you don't necessarily have to have a high-level degree to work for the state agency, right? There's a plethora of jobs that you can work for with the state. Okay, I'm going to stop talking. Does anybody have any questions? And I can't see the chat.
There are no questions in the chat at this time. I don't know if any of our attendees have questions that they would like to ask.
Oh,
This is
Oh,
your
is-
opportunity to get those questions asked.
oh, was that boring?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Does DARS, my name's Kelly, by the way. Does DARS provide any type of support for hiring people with disabilities that maybe have like different communication styles? Like, I'll give an example, like some high-tech companies now are like allowing interview questions to be given to the person applying for the job ahead of time to look over. Are there situations like that?
So that would be considered a reasonable accommodation. So usually with most job announcements, they will have on there, if you need a reasonable accommodation for the, for the application or hire or interview process or hire process, you can request that. So typically, the person that's scheduling the interview would be the person that you would request that accommodations for the questions ahead of time. Okay. And there are, there are a lot of state agencies that do that. Is that just my screen that's blinking, or is everyone blinking?
Just yours.
Uh-oh. Okay.
But we don't see you blinking, Sandra.
Okay, my screen is blinking. So, okay. Woo, you're all like, okay, let me get out of there. So that would be a reasonable accommodation to have those
Thank-
questions ahead of time. But does that answer your
Sandra.
question, or?
Sandra,
Yeah.
this is Penny speaking. I am very impressed with the stats that you shared. And I understand the first year is not available, but this is perhaps the first time I've seen how well you guys are doing or how many have been hired to date. And I really appreciated seeing the diversity of the agencies that have bought into this and that they are literally hiring
Mhm.
our constituents, and the types of jobs that they're hiring. And I am aware that we have some alumni who are even in this session tonight who have been looking for a long time for a position. So I'm hoping that we will provide this PowerPoint, but I'm hoping that they will look at that listing so that they might look for positions that they can apply for. And I am certain that they know who I'm talking to because I work with them.
Okay. Now, having
regarding
said
this.
that, and so actually the agencies that I showed you were just the executive branch agencies. So I forgot to clarify that. So for example, like I know that George Mason and JMU, I think, are using the alternative hiring process, but they don't use the state application on the Virginia government website. So what happens is they can advertise their job on the Virginia government website, but then when you go to apply, you'll have to go to their website and fill out their application. So essentially, the only data that I'm getting are those agencies that are in the executive branch and that are using the alternative hiring process. So I do have it on my list of things to do to contact the community colleges and these other agencies that are hiring to get their data. Because I'm sure that there are more people, because I know we have people that have been hired at these schools, because I've been in communication with some of them. I just need to get their data. Yeah. And if anyone on here is searching and you want to get a letter, use that link on that PowerPoint, and I can connect with you. And I am not doing it at this time, but after January, I will be offering overviews to non-DARS people that get letters. Because I think the more educated they are, again, that's only going to increase the numbers, right? They'll be more successful, because what I'm learning is that older individuals coming back into the workforce are maybe using an overqualified resume, or maybe the resume is 5 pages long, not 2 pages long. And what I'm learning is also that it really matters what you put on your application and resume that will get you into that interview. So just getting that education piece out there to those non-DARS individuals, I think will be helpful to them. But that will be coming after January. And Penny, I can share that with you when that all starts. We can stay in contact and I can let you
Absolutely.
know.
Absolutely. We're going to go ahead and launch our poll while we continue to encourage those who have questions. It is 7:10 and we did anticipate that we would finish early tonight due to the absence of our third presenter because of bereavement. But I want to encourage those of you who have any questions for these two DARS representatives to go ahead and ask, or if you'd like to share anything with us.
I do see that there was a statement in the chat from Kelly that Virginia Tech is doing that as well. And am I assuming that they're doing a disability hiring process?
What I meant is in reference to what you were saying, in regard to like, it takes you to their website. So they're like
Right.
using it for advertisement.
Yes, yeah. So Virginia Tech currently is not using the AHP, but they do have their own hiring process for people with disabilities. But they're not using the AHP.
Sandra, this is Christine. I have a quick question. You mentioned that folks can obtain a letter by going through DARS or DBVI. Is there a reason why folks couldn't obtain a letter through the Department for Deaf and Hard of Hearing?
So right now, because the policy was created through partnership with the Pathways Grant and DHRM. Right now, the Pathways Grant and DARS is issuing the letters because of our data. We need to keep our data. And so to date, we've had almost 3,000 people request a letter. We have not issued 3,000 letters, but we have tried to contact 3,000 people with our little small team here. And some people don't follow through with, reaching back, or we will request documentation. We have issued, I should have had that data, but we have issued a few hundred letters. So, so according to the DHRM guidelines for the AHP, right now it's DBVI and DARS because we're the sister agencies. So that's interesting though, Christine. I don't even know if that was even thought about. It doesn't mean that maybe it couldn't change. So these are just guidelines that can be amended when necessary, right? So I'm sure that, so this grant ends in October 2026. So 2 more years. So I'm sure that will definitely be revisited because the grant will no longer be. So we have to figure out, okay, who's actually going to disseminate those letters. Yeah.
Very helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And that was a good idea. That wasn't even thought about.
Any other questions?
Is there possibly a chance to share your screen and show folks where they can find it on the website, on the Virginia Jobs site?
There's a question in the chat. If you could get that person.
Oh, I'm sorry. If a student had DARS services before they went to college, but are not sure what they can do now that they have their degree, can VR services prepare them for this process?
I'm sorry, say it one more
To
time.
that?
Tracy?
Sure. Let me read the question. Can VR services prepare them for this process? Absolutely.
I'm going to so in the chat, when I put the link in for the letter request, it's putting down contact pathways. I don't know why, but I am going to quickly share my screen one more time. Okay. Can you all see the Virginia government website here?
Yes.
Okay. So at the top here, you're going to see 4 links: search jobs and the alternative hiring process. This is just to give you information about the alternative hiring process, as you see here. And this link here is where you can request that letter. I kind of wish it was a different color. It's very difficult to see, but that is the link. And down here are links for the guidelines and the FAQs. And then up here, as I said before, you would just do a regular job search. You would not search for jobs just under AHP. Okay, so you would just go to search for jobs, and you would use your regular filters here. Penny, I don't know how much time we have. I don't know if you all want me to go through this website really quick, or...
I think just giving them a brief overview at this time and then giving them access to it would be appropriate.
Okay, so you're going to do your searches on the left here, but I always advise the less filter words you use, the better, because then you're going to get more hits, right? But let me show you an agency that I know does use the alternative hiring process. Okay, I think Department of Behavioral Health uses the process. So I'm going to scroll down here. Okay, so here is a paragraph on the job announcement towards the bottom about the alternative hiring process. So if you see this paragraph, chances are that agency is using the AHP, okay? If you don't see that paragraph, don't bother uploading a letter, okay? But if ever anyone has any questions about that application or that job posting, there's always going to be a point of contact that you can contact if you have questions, or you might need reasonable accommodations, okay, for your interview or for your application. Okay, so that's how you're going to know that that agency is using the AHP, okay? Let me go back. But just really quick, you know, you can always search by where you live. Unfortunately, this doesn't give you a radius, right? So if you went on Indeed, and if you live in Henrico, you might want to, you know, like you might have a 50-mile radius of where you want to drive to. Unfortunately, in the city, if you live in Henrico, you would have to select Henrico, but then you also might want to check Henrico County. You also might want to check Richmond. So this website is not the most user-friendly website, unfortunately. Okay, so then jobs will pop up in these areas. Okay, and on the top, you're going to see these are my filter words. And on the left, and I think this is kind of important for your employment type, if you want to work full-time, you will want to check off classified. You will also want to check off full-time, full-time salary, full-time, okay, not full-time staff. You want to go down here and make sure that you have checked off everything that seems to be quasi full-time. I think that's like 35 hours a week or something, okay? Because if you don't check all of them, then not all the jobs will populate. So that is a downfall to this website, but you're going to see the job title, the job type, the location, the agency, and the hiring range. And if any of you are interested just in hybrid jobs, hybrid is you go into the office sometimes and then you work home from sometimes. You're going to see hybrid. So let's say that you live in Fredericksburg, but you see, oh, the job's in Richmond. Oh, but it's hybrid. Maybe you only need to go in there once a week. Are you willing to drive 60 minutes to get this job? Okay. So when you do your job search, if anyone on here is actively job searching, okay, you know, try to be as creative as you can and try to think outside the box so that you get the job leads that you want. Any questions with the website?
There was one question, Sandra, and is there a way to search for jobs just by employers who use that AHP?
No. No, but no. So no, I want you to all though to not pigeonhole yourselves either. So just because you have a disability or someone else has a disability, don't pigeonhole yourself into just being hired through a disability hiring path. Remember, you can always request reasonable accommodations. Okay, so it's really, really important to expand your thought that just because you have a disability, you don't have to be hired just through a disability hiring path. Okay, you should search for jobs that you want to do, that you're capable of doing, and that, you know, it's going to pay your bills, right? And maybe give you a vacation once or twice a year. Okay, so unfortunately, no, there is no specific job search for that, but there shouldn't be, because we don't want you just to stay in that small hole.
There are no further questions in the chat box.
Excellent.
Okay. Well, we want to throw up some hand claps and some love, what do they call, emojis, to say thank you to our representatives from DARS and the Department of Human Resource Management. Thank you, Tracy Branch, and thank you, Sandra Phipps, for spending this evening with us and for sharing with us, you know, information about your programs. I think it has been very helpful. I think it is perhaps indicative that many of our guests tonight have been working with you, and you guys have done presentations in other venues, and therefore there's not as many questions, but certainly this has been very helpful tonight, and I really appreciate the creativity in terms of giving access to the different websites as well. That's been very, very helpful. I see that our Executive Director, Terry, has turned on her camera, so I want to yield to Terry and give her an opportunity to say a few words. Hi, Terry.
Buddy, so happy to be here tonight. Thank you, Sandra and Tracy, for all of the great information. You know, it's interesting. I guess it's just human. I don't know how I've learned this information and I've heard you present before, but you know, it just gets more reinforcing, and I soak it in more and more every time. So, you know, keep doing what you're doing, keep sharing this important information. Those of you who participated today, thank you so much. And, you know, keep reaching out, keep listening, keep learning. It's just, you know, so important when I get a call from somebody who asks about employment, the alternative hiring process, which I've had a number of calls. You know, it's just so reinforcing for me to hear it again and just really try to understand it so I can be a good conveyor of good and important resources. So thank you, Dr. Penny and Christine, for organizing this, and everybody for being here tonight.
Thank you, Terry. We want to thank our alumni, training alumni, as we said in our opening. These sessions are recommended and selected by our alumni, who tell us these are the areas and the topics that they really want more information on. And then we try, on behalf of Virginia Board and our Training and Alumni Development Programs unit, to make it happen. And so we have several of our alumni on tonight. I want to shout out to Sheena Cobb, one of our alumni, because she recommended you, Tracy Branch. You came highly recommended because she wanted to make sure that we address deaf services. And so, Sheena, I trust that you are pleased.
Love me some Sheena.
I saw her chats coming out and her thank yous and all of that, but thank you so much, Sheena, for your contribution in helping us to put this together. I think that we have had our poll up, the last poll. Christine, is it still up? Or
Amazing. This is Sheena. Thank you so much, Tracy. Thank you for coming, and thank you all. Oh, send love right back to you.
Awesome. Awesome. All right, then. Listen, it's 7:25 and it's a wrap tonight. We thank you all for coming and joining us. And we do have one final slide. Can someone put that up for me?
You'd like me to go ahead and do it, Christine?
Yes, Eli, I'm not sure what just happened.
Okay, no problem. I should be full screen now.
Yes, sir. Dr. Penny, you're on mute.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Hello?
ma'am. Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
I don't know what happened. It seems like I went out of the classroom, but undoubtedly you can still see me and hear me, but I can't see or hear any of you. But I want to thank you again on behalf of Virginia Board, and just wanted to call your attention to our final workshops that remain in this 2024 year. We have one additional one coming up on November the 15th. It is a Friday from 12 noon to 2 p.m. And it is entitled Planning for Life with a Disability, Financial, Legal, and Support Strategies. We are very, very excited that this is a topic that's going to be addressed, and we have, like we would have had tonight, one of our alumni who will be joining the team of presenters to address this topic. That is Friday. So registrations will be coming out in the next week or two. And so we hope that you will join us. We are going to take a break in December and January, and our next session will happen on February the 21st in 2025. Can you believe that? We're almost in another new year. Navigating Justice. It is a part 1 and part 2 session. The first session will focus on school to prison pipeline on the 21st of February 2025, which is a Friday again. And the second session, or part 2, will focus on safeguarding people with individual and developmental disabilities and invisible disabilities. And so this one will be held on a Wednesday evening from 6 to 8. And then we'll wrap up these continuing education sessions in April on the 11th, 2025, with a supported decision-making, protecting rights, ensuring choices, and aging caregivers session. So we hope that you will join us for any or all of the remaining sessions, and we thank our training alumni again for all the hard work you do to help us bring this to the state of Virginia. And we are appreciative to our communications and information manager, Anita Ayers, who has us on Facebook Live. And so we are averaging anywhere between 225 to 350 viewers of these statewide after we have completed them in real time. And so we're excited that we're reaching even more persons. We will be sending you the PowerPoints from our presenters tonight. And if you desire a recording, we will also send that to you. So again, thank you so very much. It is 7:29, and we wish you a wonderful evening and have a great day tomorrow. Bye.